Kadocha is a series with a very interesting cast of characters, all with deep backstories and unique personalities that make it easy to sympathize with and care about them. However, there is one character in the anime who appears only a few times during a brief arc at the end of Season 1. Like Sana, he is also an actor, but we find out that he is more to Sana over time than just a co-worker. I would argue that this character is a lot more controversial than Fuka, and fans of the series often disregard his character and story arc in the anime completely. So why is that? So let's talk about Takeshi Gojo. Takeshi Gojo first appears in the 41st episode of the anime. While Sana is at the TV studio, she meets Takeshi, who's going to play her father in a late-night murder mystery series. Immediately, Sana attaches herself to Takeshi, as she thinks he is really funny and very kind to her. It's at this time Sana is writing an autobiography, and being around Takeshi was helping her deal with all of the pressure from writing the book and meeting the deadlines. From exhaustion one day, Sana falls asleep on a bench outdoors and is found by Takeshi, who takes her back to his home. It's after this point when Sana gets very close to Takeshi, and begins telling TV reporters that the two are in love. We soon learn that behind the scenes, Takeshi seems to be suffering from some kind of illness, as at the end of episode 44, he fell down in his kitchen, having difficulties breathing. In the next episode, we learn more about Takeshi's past, and how he went off to America with aspirations of becoming a very successful actor, and that he left the woman he loved behind in the process. Sana is very moved by this, and tries to comfort him. It is from the devious reporter from a few episodes prior named Kurosaki that we learn that Takeshi is Sana's biological father. Having revealed this to Sana's mother Masako, she is skeptical and decides to confront Sana's biological mother Keiko about it. Keiko confirms that Takeshi is Sana's real father. Takeshi then sees a doctor, and it is revealed that he only has 1 more month to live. Sana is unaware of all of this, as Masako and Rei keep the news to themselves in order to spare Sana's feelings. Over the next few episodes, Takeshi's health severely declines, and he eventually passes away on the set of the TV drama, holding Sana in his arms. The aftermath of Takeshi's death is absolutely heartbreaking, as it is difficult to see Sana acting so out of character and depressed. However, this arc was able to give us more of a backstory for Sana's father, but unfortunately it fails in almost every possible way. I would like to introduce my friend and Kadocha podcast co-host, Maho Shoujo M, who is going to start our discussion and analysis of the Takeshi Gojo arc.
Hi, my name is Maho Shoujo M. I run Daily Kadocha on Twitter and Tumblr, and I am also the co-host of 19 O'Clock News with That Kadocha Girl. When Takeshi asked me to put down some thoughts on the Takeshi Gojo arc, I was initially really nervous. This arc involves really intense reactions within the fandom, most of them negative, and I really want to be careful about how I express myself in this. I would like to say up front that this is my least favorite arc in the series. I should also say up front that I do not really like any of the anime-only arcs. I feel very strongly that Obana knew what she was doing, and I feel that the anime staff and writing staff and director didn't really give the source material the respect that it deserves. I violently hate this arc, and ordinarily when I watch Kadocha, I make a point to skip most of these episodes. That being said, this time around I wanted to watch it with a more open mind. I wanted to see if I could find some sort of good within this arc, and for the most part, I came up short. What I will say is that Takeshi Gojo on his own is like a fine character, but the writers put him in just weird situations. Misako points out really early on that Take-chan might be someone that Sana needs. Conversely, I think it could have been a nice one-off filler episode about Sana inspiring a down-on-his-luck fellow actor to keep trying. I think that they could have had a nice, normal friendship, and that he could have been an okay recurring character, even as her father. But the weirdness just keeps coming. It's weird that he changed her clothes when he found her sleeping on the park bench. It's weird that one of them didn't take the couch when she sleeps at his house. It's weird that when Sana wakes up in his bed, she expects the worst has happened. And at the very end of his arc, it's weird that Take-chan was so determined to finish Chaos Theater. Like, he knew he would die. I think he could have guessed that choice, that pride would not be a positive thing. Like, he was so prideful that he chose to traumatize his daughter by dying in front of her, as opposed to, letting it go, The other thing that myself and so many other fans also really hate about this arc is the grossness of the age gap romance. Something that I did observe in this watch through is that whenever Sana calls him her boyfriend, he either doesn't respond or changes the subject. The only exception to this is at the beginning of the arc when talking to the press, he says, if there's love, age doesn't matter. Earlier in the episode, he tells Sana that he loves what she said to the press about them being romantically involved, and I wonder if another interpretation of this scene is that he thought it would be like a funny and absurd bit. As we know, his sense of humor kind of sucks, and he doesn't really know what jokes are appropriate for which audiences. Something else I noticed was, like, in the final episode, whenever Sana calls him my darling, Take-chan responds back by calling her musume, or daughter. The main thing, though, that I find so frustrating about this arc is the fact that most of the characters are not acting like themselves. They are written very out of character. Like, first, I'd like to draw attention to Mama, Misako's anguish over whether she should tell Take-chan that he is literally dying, and also Sana's biological father, makes actually no sense at all. Misako is honest and forthright to the point of bluntness, and she has an aversion to keeping things from people. A specific example of this is in Volume 10, when she tells Akito the real reasons that Fuyuki is moving them to Los Angeles. She tells him this without any real regard for Fuyuki's feelings on the matter because she thinks that Akito deserves to know. So I don't really see a universe where she would not have told Take-chan the truth about his health and his relationship with Sana. Second, we gotta talk about Sana. Sana was hurt by her experience with Rei, and she learned that her attitude towards their relationship was childish and that she was the only one that didn't really understand what was going on. At the beginning of junior high, she says that she's not even sure she believes in love anymore because of what happens with Rei. I just don't see her running into another relationship with an even older man. I would also say that Sana's treatment of the TV staff and producers is wildly unprofessional and very unlike her. The first time she hits anyone ever in her life is when Akito tries to drown Mami-chan in one of the early episodes, like episode 3 or something. Like, what those producers were saying about Take-chan after he died was horrible. But Sana wouldn't have hit them. Like, she would have slapped anybody in the face for that. She certainly would have given them a piece of her mind, but I just don't see her resorting to violence. And then there's the grief piece. I understand that everyone handles grief differently, but the way they wrote Sana in this arc didn't seem to resemble her. It was different than when she was sad about Akito when she's filming Mansion of Water, and it's different than her doll syndrome from Volume 10. It just doesn't ring true to me. The other piece of weirdness is that, at least on screen, we never see Sana learn that Takeshi is her father. The snake reporter tells Take-chan, but no one ever seems to share that with Sana herself. To me, this makes her grief and subsequent reactions even more mystifying, because what are we looking at? The grief of a girl who lost someone she loved, or the grief of a girl who lost her father? I think those would present differently, personally. And then the only other interesting thing I would bring up about this arc is that I was thinking about, now we've met both of Sana's parents, Keiko Sakai and Takeshi Gojo. And it really does bring up an interesting point about nature versus nurture to me. Maybe it's just that whenever we see Keiko, she's sad, always sad all the time. And that Takeshi also seems to have a penchant for sadness. It's just making me think about like Sana and her happy-go-lucky attitude and outlook on life just don't really seem like anything she inherited from her parents. They seem like something she got from Misako. So I just think that's really interesting to think about. But that's all of my thoughts on the Takeshi Gojo arc of Kadocha. I never want to watch these episodes again. The only good part about them is when Akito, goes to rescue her from the mountaintop. That was okay. But the rest of it I just really could do without altogether. So, and it's such an odd way to end season 1 as well. And it even feels like an even weirder place for Funimation to just drop the series entirely. My heart really goes out to folks who never got to see the remainder of the show, because it's just so odd. Anyway, thank you for having me.
I definitely agree with a lot of M's points about the Takeshi arc. What's so frustrating about this arc is the fact that you almost like the character of Takeshi in the storyline. It's unfortunate that the writers turned it into a Sana and Rei situation, where she wants this older man to be her boyfriend. Unlike the Rei situation, Takeshi embraces Sana's love for him and plays the part of her boyfriend in a very bizarre way. With Rei, we get a glimpse of how he feels toying with Sana's emotions when he isn't playing the part of her boyfriend. The audience is given information that makes us feel for Rei and understand the situation better. The Takeshi situation almost feels like a discount version of that. It's almost like the writers ran out of ideas and decided to borrow from previous situations in the series. I also wanted to elaborate more on what M said about how each of the characters during the Takeshi arc feels so out of character. The Misako from earlier in the series would have never been so apathetic about her daughter going off into the mountains with a strange man that she met recently, or even allow her to go on a date with him. With the Rei situation, Misako knew the truth about what was going on, and she could protect and monitor Sana since they were in the same environment most of the time. Takeshi is just some random man she met while working and hasn't even met Misako. It was really when Takeshi took her to the French restaurant when things started feeling really weird and uncomfortable for me. Also, not only does Misako act out of character, Sana feels that way too. It's like all of her growth from before never happened, as she's acting the same way with Takeshi as she did with Rei. One of the best examples of Sana's weird character changes is during the episode about Mamie not making it into Sana's book. Instead of making up with Mamie immediately, she runs off to the mountains with Takeshi. I just don't think the Sana we know would do something like that to her friend. And I really felt the situation wasn't that bad to the point where Sana needed to run away. It just didn't feel justified. When Rei broke her heart in the illusion of love earlier in the series, it made sense why she felt she had to run away, feeling like her entire life was a lie and she was hated. But in the Mamie situation, Sana would have made up with her immediately and would have done anything to make it up to her for hurting her feelings. After watching this arc again and analyzing it thoroughly, the only good moments from it actually don't involve Takeshi at all. During his time in the anime, we get some interesting plot lines featuring side characters such as Gomi, Hisei, and of course Mamie, as well as some nice moments between Sana and Akito, especially at the end. One thing I would like to mention as well that came to me when I was thinking of what they could have done to make this arc better is if they were to repeat it in a reboot, I think it would be best to take out the fact that Sana has feelings for Takeshi and just make it about her learning about her father. Another storyline I think would have worked much better is a bit darker though. It would have been interesting to utilize this situation to provide commentary on the dangers of being a child star in the entertainment industry, and the trauma that it inflicts on the children as they grow older, and how it affects them psychologically. It would be heartbreaking to see Sana in a situation like that, but I think it would have been a lot better and would have sent a better message for children and teens watching the show. Overall, it makes me sad that this arc had to fail as miserably as it did. Not many in the fanbase enjoy it, and it comes across as unsettling and hard to watch at points. It feels like we are watching a bizarre, poorly written fanfiction being animated with no real soul or direction. Again, it just feels like the writers were borrowing from previous situations in the series and not understanding how the characters should have developed as the original author of the manga intended. Hopefully, if a Kadocha reboot ever does happen, we get an animated version of the manga, or the Takeshi plotline is fixed so it is more digestible and adds to the original story. Thank you all for watching today's video, and thank you Em for coming on to tell us your thoughts about the Takeshi Gojo arc. So what are your thoughts on this arc? Please leave a comment down below. I always love discussing the series with other fans. And as always, please like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. See ya!